Hi guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. So, this video is going to be a video in response to a lot of the rumors and misconceptions that I receive in my inbox, in my DMs regarding the USMLE. So, without wasting a lot of time, let's just get into them. Rumor number one, my basics are weak. First of all, I never know what you're trying to say when you talk about basics. Does that mean biochemistry, physiology, anatomy? And what do you mean by weakness? Did you not study them well in med school? Maybe did you just pass them with bare minimum marks? Well, to address both of those concerns, I'm just going to tell you right now it doesn't really matter how well you studied in med school. There might be a difference in terms of speed and comprehension when you start studying for the USMLE, but eventually you will have to study for these topics from the perspective of USMLE all over again, no matter how well you studied them in the first place. Let me tell you that any exam, and this includes the USMLE, cannot be passed if you don't study it from the perspective of that exam. It doesn't matter if you studied Harrison, Lippincott, or whatever undergraduate book you could get your hands on. You have to study from the perspective of the exam. So, a lot of the questions were, should I start this journey? My concepts are weak, my basics are weak. You'll never develop the concepts that are needed for this exam if you don't start studying for the exam in the first place. Once you start studying for the USMLE, you'll start to realize the concepts tested and the topics that are tested, they're kind of very concise. There's a small area in which the USMLE will test those topics and usually does not go beyond that scope. If it does, then it's difficult for everyone and not just you. So, whenever people come to me saying my basics are weak, we haven't studied well in med school, I tell them it doesn't matter. So, start UWorld, open that first aid book, and just trust the process. Number two, I'm an old graduate. I can't match into the US system. This is not completely false. I will address a few truths though. The year of graduation caveat kind of applies to when you have graduated more than 5 years ago. If you've graduated in less than 5 years and apply for the match, usually most of the programs don't filter you out. It's better if your year of graduation is less than 3 years, ideally. But if that doesn't work out, if you are within 5 years of your graduation, a lot of the programs won't filter you out. But beyond 5 years, yes, there is a bit of a decline in terms of match rates and the specialties you can choose to go into after that time passes. I will tell you a short story though. My anatomy demonstrator, he had cleared his USMLE and did his surgery training from Pakistan. And just last year, he got inducted into a general surgery program within the United States after completing his general surgery in his home country because he could explain what he was doing after he gave the USMLE. If you have a valid reason in which you can explain that clinical gap, you'd be pretty good to go. It doesn't really matter, but I will say it matters a little bit. Next misconception is, should I completely read first aid, memorize first aid, and then jump to UWorld or start doing questions? That's a big, big no. Why? Because you're just memorizing first aid. There's knowledge, but there's no application of knowledge. And that's what USMLE tests. It doesn't matter how well you've memorized that topic. It matters how well you've understood that topic. The knowledge that was given to you, can you apply it to real scenarios? That's what the USMLE checks. You can get away with a lot of stuff just by knowing the concepts and having a big picture understanding of what the topic is. A lot of students, a lot of people, a lot of IMGs come to me saying, we're not comfortable doing UWorld because obviously UWorld is not an easy question bank. You're going to score very poorly when you do UWorld. It happens to most of us, but they're not ready to get their ego bruised at that moment. And so they say, we're going to read first aid, we're going to read a lot of other resources, we're going to watch all boards and beyond videos, and then we're going to start UWorld. Please do not do that. That is time wasted, because eventually you will have forgotten what you have memorized, what you have read, and you'll have to do that all over again, because you realize that UWorld is an application of knowledge and it doesn't test knowledge as per se. So I would recommend starting questions as soon as possible. Please do that if you can. Last misconception I would definitely like to clear out is I don't have any connections for the USMLE. When people talk about connections, they usually mean networking. And networking is nothing more than just knowing a person or having their email or contacting them for a little bit of help. A lot of people match into the US without any connections, but they match with networking. That is sometimes a little bit different. Connections are misinterpreted as family connections or people that you directly know within the system, and they can basically pick you up and match you into a program. That does not happen in the US. You will be judged on merit and you will be held to a similar standard to all other candidates, no matter how strong your connections are. Yes, there might be a little bit bias in choosing a candidate for a specific program, but you will still need the required scores and grades to qualify for that residency. Now, I would recommend focusing on networking. That's completely different. That's going to the US when you go for your observerships and meeting people, having a nice friendly chat with them, getting their number or email perhaps in case you might need it in the future. That's what networking is. These are the most common misconception, rumors, and queries I'd like to clear up about the USMLE. If you have any more, please shoot me a message or comment on this video. And if you haven't, please like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Have a nice day.